This is a similar question to one we've already had, but I'm going to do it again. How do you silence distraction, no matter how important, to achieve your number one priority?
On op, when I was still a sniper, I actually had a much easier time of this. I'm ADD in a lot of ways, and whatever I want to focus on. ADD doesn't mean that you can't focus on stuff. It just means like when the teacher tells you to focus on something, you're busy doing other stuff. And so, right? It's not a deficit disorder. It's that I don't give a shit what you're trying to show me. But that right there, that's what I want to look at. So I had a way of just, I would, like if I had to watch a crossroad, I watched that crossroad was my whole world, and it wouldn't matter what was. Now it doesn't mean I wasn't situationally aware, but I would watch that crossroad like my life depended on it, or somebody's life depended on it,
Which
a lot of times it did. And if I have another, what I found actually, and this is one of the reasons why I'm starting to meditate again. I'm seeing a therapist again. I'm listening to Jocko Podcast and reading Extreme Ownership. I'm being serious.
That's awesome.
Is that
I appreciate
in my civilian, post-military, post-wounded, post-addiction world, I've lost a little bit of my ability to push out the input I don't want. I used to read a book a month at the minimum. And I'm not talking like a book. I'm talking like a book. You know that I showed you I had the 33 Laws of War in my suitcase? Mm-hmm. I've been reading that for 3 months. And I'm maybe half done. I have a real hard time now achieving that zone of zero distraction. And I'm trying to get it back because it's really, I get a lot done. You know, I have my politics. I have the book. I do keynote speeches. I have my kids. I have all my hobbies. You know, I'm trying to support veterans, support charities that support veterans, and I still get a lot done. But I could get so much more done if I could turn off some things in my mind sometimes. And I don't know what's happened or if this is what an addict's brain is like now, or if it's just I'm always seeking something. I get bored easily. That's part of the ADD. I've always had that. But when I found something and latched onto it, I used to be like I was 100% focused until I became, I got as much of that as I could, and then I would move on to the next thing. And I got to be honest. I've visualization, though, going back to the first question, is one way that you can do it. And I've started meditating to get my mind back into that state. I used to do a lot of yoga, and I used to do a lot of mindfulness, not training. I don't know what people now it's called mindfulness training. Back then, I think it was just called reflection or something.
I call it jujitsu.
Yeah. Well, when I'm done the bodybuilding show in November, I will start jiu-jitsu.
Oh, you might actually be starting jiu-jitsu tomorrow, my friend.
Just don't hurt me.
Doesn't hurt.
Everyone I know who starts jiu-jitsu hurts something. That's why I'm holding off. I will definitely come let you ragdoll me. But my point is that I've lost it, and I'm probably the last guy to give you advice right now on how to lock out the world, because I have to put on headphones and crank music to get through a workout right now. And I know this. I know I'm detrimental in it, and I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to correct it. And it bugs the shit out of me. It really does. It makes me feel like less of a person.
So let me tell you about a transition that I went through.
Yes.
First of all, before the war, the military sent me to college. So I had to go to college. And as I said before, I was super focused when I went to college. I'd been in the SEAL teams for 10 years. I was a go-getter. I was a hard charger. I was like, oh, you want me to read this book? Boom. I would sit down and just force myself to read it. and then got back to the SEAL teams. And like when I went to college, I literally read every single thing that I was assigned. And nobody does that in college. Nobody does that. I read every single page of every single thing I was assigned during college. That's ridiculous. It's almost a waste of time. It's almost embarrassing. Echo definitely thinks it's a waste of time. But it was because I just could lock my brain down and get it done.
Yeah.
So then get back to the teams, and in the teams, officer in the teams, you have a lot of administrative paperwork to do, evaluations and after actions reports and all these things. And I would do the same thing. I just go into lockdown mode and I put my brain on it, and boom, I'd go through it and just get it done. I would just be able to focus.
So like each thing.
Laser focus. Laser focus.
That report, done. Gone.
I'd be like,
Memo.
okay, give me that.
Gone.
Done.
Report, done.
Done.
Okay.
Okay, so I go to Iraq the first time, no big deal. I go to Iraq the second time. It's a much tougher deployment. It's guys are getting wounded. My guys are getting killed. And I come home, and I get put into running the training. And with running the training, all of a sudden, there's administrative requirements. And there was administrative requirements overseas as well. And you know what we did? Locked them down and got them done. I get home, and I remember the first time I got to do, I think it's evaluations, which in the military, in the Navy anyways, doing evaluations is a real pain. It's a real big administrative task.
Administration of, or evaluation of your troops.
Evaluations of all the troops.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
At this place I was at,
Huge
running
pain,
training,
yes.
I had 100 guys, and every one of them is like a little mini term paper or something. It has to be perfect.
Right.
It's in the person's military record forever. They're really stressful about it. And I used to have no problem just hammering those things out. So I get back from that deployment, and I'm sitting down, and I start doing it. I'm like, this is stupid. This doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm doing this. Why do I have to do that? I kind of started saying the same things that I would always rag on people for saying. Like, this is stupid. Oh, now your men are stupid. You don't want to fill out the report and take care of your guys. You don't want to write a good
The rest
evaluation.
of their career isn't worth your 5 minutes to write this?
Okay, so but I heard myself saying this.
Right.
And what the constant undertone of all this was that this stuff doesn't matter. Combat was what mattered. And when you get back from that situation where, man, your buddies are getting killed, you're getting wounded, your friends are getting wounded, this piece of paper, it doesn't matter. And you say to yourself, I don't care about this. And at some point, and it took me maybe 2 or 3 months, I did what I had to do to get by. But as I sit there and I looked at myself and I said, you know what? The combat doesn't matter anymore. You're not in it. You're not in it right now.
Right.
This is now what matters.
Your mind was still there.
My mind was still there, thinking that was all that matters. And like I said on our last podcast, actually, it's in the past, and it doesn't matter anymore. So you know what you have to do? You have to be a man, and you have to do your job now, and this is what matters now. And that, to me, made a big transition for me. And I haven't even thought about this until you were talking about it, because I remember what it was like to go from when I went to college and when I was, before I deployed Romani, I would just be so laser focused, be able to just burn through things. Right. And then when I got back and it was not there, and it was all because I thought, this stuff doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters, there's guys getting killed overseas right now. That's what matters. And I had to say, you know what? No, that stuff doesn't matter right now. And and also I was in charge of training. And I said, what matters is doing this, getting guys trained to go overseas. And I became obsessed with that and slightly psychotic about getting guys ready for combat. I mean, I was
preparing them for what they were about to go into.
For what they were going into. And, I'm sure there were many SEALs that went through the training that I was overall in charge of and would attest to the fact that I was probably pretty borderline psychopathic at that point. But I think that's
who I want running my training. No offense, dude, but I want a psycho running my combat training.
Yep. So I think...
But what...
Go ahead.
Okay, you were just going to say you think...
I think that telling yourself and recognizing to yourself, why are you trying to do this thing? Because you're trying to do something because it does matter, right? It has to matter in some way. Even if it's just filling out the paperwork to get your license from the DMV.
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, actually, you know what? It does matter. You're going to get arrested if you get pulled. You know, it's like, no, it does matter. These little things, these little stupid, meaningless tasks in life, they actually do matter. So you know what you do? You line them up and you freaking crush them. That's what you do. That's what you do. You line up these stupid, meaningless things and you crush them and you use them as an exercise in discipline. They become an exercise in discipline. Oh, this thing doesn't matter. Guess what? I'm going to crush it now. Bring it to me. Where's my DMV form? Watch me fill this out. That's what I'm going to do. So maybe I turn like some little meaningless things into a personal competition of discipline, but maybe that's not
how
a bad
consistent
plan.
are you making that happen though? This is I'm me
consistent.
talking to you
And
now.
let me tell you. So for instance, since we started the podcast, I have to read, basically a book a week, and then once I read it, I've got to go back into it.
Yeah, you do like a book report.
And go back through it and say, and how is this going to flow together? What part? So I'm spending a lot of time on that right now. And I've been able to do it every time so far.
Okay.
So I think
because I've lost my
strong.
ability to be consistent. And that's what's really bumming me out. Like when your book isn't, I mean, it's thick, but I should have been able to read this in 2 or 3 solid days of reading.
Yes.
I told you how successful I was.
Yes. Not very.
And that bugs the shit out of me. And it's a fail. It's a
You know what though? I think this is
a failure on my part.
I think that this is the same thing that we were talking about on the last podcast, and I think Echo said when you say, "Oh, you know what? I'm not going to finish this book right now." I don't really want to. It's sort of like when you say, "Oh, I'm not going to quit."
No, it's not that I don't
Oxycontin."
want to though.
That's what I'm saying. You say, "But I don't want to do it right now. I can push it off a little bit." You accept that. You accept that answer. You accept that answer. The soldier, Jody,
Right.
wouldn't accept that answer. Would not.
Do you self-talk?
Not really. Not really. I'm not a guy that says, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I just do it.
Right.
I just go and do whatever that thing is.
I think because you kind of have become that, so it's more of like, put kind of crudely, that's habitual for you to just
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
Remember how? And I think it was kind of funny where I use this example, like how you said you use it as an exercise of discipline. So I said this example one time where I was in line at the grocery store and I had a 12-pack of beer.
Do we have to
and-
relive
and
this
something
story right
else.
now?
And I was standing in line and there was maybe 3-4 people in front of me. So I'm like, all right, it's going to be a while for me to get up there. This beer's getting
And you
heavy.
decided you were going to hold the beer. I remember
Exactly
this story.
right.
I remember this story.
Yeah.
Dang.
So exactly right. But it wasn't that, okay. And the reason I decided to hold the beer wasn't because that benefited me right then. It was an exercise in mental toughness.
But here's the okay, we're way off the question, but physical tasks, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Because it's visceral, it's real. I can feel it. But to sit down and read the report on the sewer charges that are going to be coming in on the tax report for the city next year, what's going on Twitter?
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing though, really.
Except
It-
the
But I'm
difference-
wondering,
on a more deeper
if
level.
my brain hasn't replaced the Oxycontin with social media.
Yeah.
Like I had to quit drinking because, okay, now we're way off the thing, but the hardcover came out last September, and
The hardcover
of
Jody
sorry, of
Minnick's book.
Unflinching, the making of a Canadian sniper by Jody Middick, printed by Simon and Schuster, Canada,
Available on
Amazon.com. Amazon through jockostore.com. Click the link to Amazon. But yeah, okay, yeah.
So
Well, I already
the
said. I
hardcover
already
was
said it.
coming
I already said it. So anyway, the hardcover
You
came
had to
out.
quit drinking.
I drank every day from the day it came out. So we had 450 people at the event. Kevin Newman, my buddy, he's a well-known news anchor in Canada, does an interview with me on the stage, and we get a standing ovation. We go out, we celebrate me, the president of the company, my editor. We have a good night. The next day, if I wasn't having one drink, I was having 10, and that went from September to the new year.
Yeah.
And I was getting fat, and I was sleeping in because I'm hungover and I'm not going to the gym. And I went, hang on, what's going on? Because this is it. Because I have my job as politician. I'm daddy. I'm friend, I'm advocate, and then the book it's a job, right? Selling a book's a job, full-time job. I need 9 days a week and 36 hours a day to do it. And so I had to make that's one of the reasons why I decided to do the bodybuilding thing, because I'm like, well, you can't drink, and it'll be right till November because I need that. So I'm trying to figure out if my brain is looking for a new habit, because I was diagnosed before as like anti-addictive, if that's even a real thing. But I had a doctor tell me once, he's like, you're pretty much an anti-addictive personality. Like, you won't get addicted to stuff. And there I was, addicted to Oxycontin. Even though it's a physical thing more than a mental thing, but I still wouldn't trust me with a pill right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we got way off track, but I just...
Again, and I don't know what your therapist is going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what Jocko would tell you, though. These little things are things that I know you know how to do them. Yeah. You've done them your whole career in the military. You were watching a crossroad. And I know that might sound exciting to people that are out there that are thinking how crazy that must be. No, there's times where Jody was watching a crossroad and there was nothing going on for 4 days.
Yeah.
And he was watching that crossroad. And so you have that in you.
Yeah.
You just got to tell yourself that, you know what, this stuff now, this is what matters. And how are you going to tell yourself that this is what matters? It's because this is how it connects to the strategic picture. You can't say that this matters because of what it is right in front of me. Just like when you're looking at the crossroads, you're not thinking, oh, this crossroads is important because the crossroads is important. No, the reason it's important is because you are supporting keeping guys alive, which is going to help a mission out, which is going to help the overall strategy win.
The commander's intent.
The commander's intent, the whole 9 yards.
So I'm the commander now.
You are the commander. And also, what's your long-term mission? And that's what, kind of, you just said to yourself, like, oh, I picked bodybuilding because you just gave yourself a mission.
Right.
So what's your administrative mission? Echo's made some big advances lately because he started freaking reading books.
Nice.
And he wasn't doing that before. But he got the long-term mission of, like, you know what? I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can. So you got a long-term mission with your constituents to be the best city councilman and represent. So when they ask you a question, you're like, boom. That's kind of the sort of psycho stuff that I would say is, like, if anybody ever asked me a question, like when I was going to college, if they asked me any question about any of the reading, I'm going to know it. That's just a bizarre, what's that, OCD thing to be like, I'm going to know everything.
So you have 4 kids, you train every day, you get up at 4 a.m. I got to get up at 4 a.m. That's it. That's my answer.
Yeah. And
sorry to riff on you guys on that, man. Like,
no,
I know you wanted to do the questions, but the first question was easy because I'm like, oh, I'll just talk about what I used to do. And then that one was like, well, if I was to try and answer right now, I'd be lying. I'd be a liar. Yeah. And I can't. I have my moments still. Don't get me wrong. I'll have moments where I'm like, this has to get done, and I'll fire through a speech, or I'll write a report, or whatever it is, and then I lose it, and it's like fuck, it's gone.
And that's actually reinforcing what I just said. So when you have a near-term mission that you know what the outcome, you know what the result is, you know what the end state is, you know what the commander's intent is. Like, hey, you got a speech in 2 days. Okay, now it's in 1 day. You can sit down and concentrate and get it done. Which where you've missed the connection now is the connection between these menial tasks that don't mean anything, and how can I put them to a long-term strategic goal? And one of the long-term strategic goals you can put into place, if nothing else, is I'm going to discipline my mind to do these menial tasks like a soldier. And that's pretty cool.
Ooh, yeah. That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, potentially.
Thank you, Jocko. So whoever asked that question, thank you for asking it. Although I went off and talked about me for the most of it.
Speaking of tangents, Echo's going to take it a little further out there.
No, it's not a tangent. It's what you said, how you said that's what a soldier does. So that's like a little exercise. And I did this before. I did this in a couple of times. Where, like, one was how I quit drinking. Was I figured out, and you can do this with your diet as well. I figured out that basically through all the stuff that I read, that you're wanting to eat junk food or drink or whatever is your brain tricking you. Because it's evolved for a certain environment. That environment isn't around anymore. Yeah. So now we're in an environment of abundance. It has to do with dopamine. Anyway, I came to the conclusion that it's your brain falling for a trick. Your physiology of your brain falling for a trick makes you want this stuff. How Jocko says, that's not what a soldier would do. I had it in my mind, I'm not going to fall for that trick. I'm not a sucker. That's not, doing this is what suckers do. I'm not a sucker. It's just like talking to yourself. So I essentially shamed myself out of drinking.
Yeah.
Just like he's doing basically the inverse into focusing,
I just remember, like, I'm the guy that in Kosovo, I quit smoking in a day because I couldn't run up the hill next to our camp. I said, well, obviously these things aren't good anymore. And I literally I even had a pack in my pocket for like a week. I was just like, yeah, okay, just throw those out. I want that guy back. And I'm in search. I think it's been 10 years since I was wounded. I think I'm going to find him again, probably on the stage for this bodybuilding thing or something. But
Yeah.
I just couldn't answer that question without talking about that because I wouldn't have been truthful at this point in my life.
And that's what's cool is maybe that question right there was something that is forcing you to face that. I mean, you might have had it in the back of your mind, but now you're going, you know what? I can't answer that honestly because I'm not there right now.
I'm not.
But I'm going to get back there real
I
quick.
have my moments.
So stand by, people.
Stand by.
Soldiers coming back online.
Reboot, Jody 3.0.